It's like the Hollywood sign, man. It's like the AMC theater when like the kids are like getting on the front row seats and it's raised up.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I've actually watched a ton of movies. I never used to before really coming to California.
Yeah.
Guess California
Andre,
really changed me. Anyway, let's talk about the two players, starting with the introductions. In the bottom right-hand corner, as the Red Terran, yet again, we have Dignitas Select.
And in the top left, from Team Alternate Attacks, we have Cloud, who is down 0-1, who went 4-4 last season. Actually, Select also went 4-4, but Cloud went dead even. He went 4-4 with 9 map wins and 9 map losses. So Cloud was just literally like the halfway break, I guess, of like players that fall below him. But Cloud was not necessarily able to qualify for wildcards, while Select did lose to Thorzane in that 3-way tie, if you guys can remember.
I remember.
I remember as well. But it was one of those things where it's like, man, Select, Thorzane, I'd rather have both of them. They also had another player. Do you remember who was the third person, Andre?
Yeah, I believe it was the Romanian Nightend.
Nightend, that's right. It was Nightend. It was a 3-way tie.
But I didn't remember his name, but I knew where he was from. How weird is that? Right?
That's pretty funny. It's a new season, guys. Though it's not like they carry anything over from NASL Season 3. They start off 0-0, and the first win is so important, just because it gets the momentum up. You know, like it gives you confidence. It gives you more desire to prepare for your upcoming matches. You can even ask players like Lowly, like Straylock, people who got off to good starts, help them have a good, successful season.
Oh, look at this. Select doing something very interesting, going ahead and throwing down a supply depot. I believe this is just to make sure that he can get out. He doesn't want to be blocked out of his base. There it is. He just verifies no gases are on there, and he's able to just cancel and save himself a little bit of money.
That's kind of cute.
It is.
25 minerals.
25 minerals.
To save an SCV.
You lose 25 minerals for the supply depot, but of course, saving that SCV is 50 minerals back.
That's true. And then you can always use it to mine or build other stuff.
Wow, it's at least 25 minerals that he lost.
But it's also like one of those things where like you're putting down 100 now, so like you can't use it. Man.
It is a little bit of opportunity cost.
It's a little bit tough, but I think Select says it's worth it, man. Every SCV is precious in this side of Select.
And right away we have Select going a reactor to start off. So this might look a little bit weird. It might look very inefficient to you guys, but Select is actually going a style where he's getting his fast expansion pretty nicely. He gets his reactor really fast. And what he's going to actually do is get his factory fast as well relative to his opponent. So he kind of makes his command center a little bit later, but his tech a little bit earlier. It really speaks Select style, which is to have some sort of aggressive style opening, whether it be Hellions, whether it be Banshees, and kind of get a little bit later of a macro, little bit later of an economy, and try to obviously equalize things out with just superior micro.
Cloud going for the mind games as well. He's placing a bunker on the top of his ramp, even though he has a command center. Love the fact that he drops the meal away to make sure it doesn't steal the extra 30 minerals. It's one of those always things that is like you don't really notice it until you start doing those things. Like, wow, I have 30 extra minerals here, 30 extra minerals there.
It adds up over a while.
It does. It really does.
Penny saved is a penny earned.
I would think so as well, because in TVT you might think that one Marine may not make a big difference early on, but it does, man. 4 Marines against 3 Marines. Have you ever been in a 4v3 fight, Andre?
I have. I won every single one of them.
You were the 3, right?
Yes, of course.
It was like, well, yeah, of course I won every 4v3, man.
Dude,
I was on the winning team. 2 Hellions are on the way for both players. Ohana's actually a good mech map, Andre, as well. A lot of players have been really favoring mech styles. And I wouldn't be surprised to see both players go for it. But do you like mech, especially since how TVT is kind of eventually defaulted to mech being very powerful, unless it's like a map like Daybreak?
Yeah, I think mech is the way to go on this map in particular. The main reason is Bio really doesn't have a lot of capabilities to actually do damage on this this terrain. That's the main thing. Like, you don't have a lot of entries to the third base, not a lot of entries to the second base, and because it's just, you can see how hugged this side of the map is to, you know, the terrain. You can actually put up turrets and really defend against any particular drops. So I really feel like Bio, just because of that, because you don't have a lot of go-to builds, because you don't have a lot of good attacks or any attack timings, Mech is just the best way to go, and we've seen Mech be so good, especially by players like Major, who have really popularized that build.
Oh, what about Goody, man? Goody goes Mech all the time, especially on Ohana. In fact, I remember watching the game between Cloud and Goody on Ohana, and it was very well contested, but it comes down to how well you can use Hellions to control the small, tight areas of the map, especially by the distance. Now, Cloud doesn't know about these Marines just yet, but he's about to discover it, and he's going to eventually confront it. Ooh, another elevator play to bring in 4 Hellions, but 2 Hellions also pop for Cloud, and that could be a very clutch play for our Teal turret.
The auto turret was actually really important as well, soaking up a ton of damage.
I didn't even see that.
And it actually messes up the AI for the initial Hellions. Of course, the Hellions shooting just this useless auto turret that really only cost time. That's all. Yeah. Just time. It's really helpful, and it allowed Cloud to obviously not take so much damage with his main units. Because of that, harassed Cloud is actually justifying himself with the 3rd base. I think that's a correct decision. Just taking advantage in that economy, but he has to be careful because there are potential timings. Look at this, Select going for bio on this map. Now, we were talking about this in the beginning, just a couple of moments ago. I really feel like this is the worst choice, but we'll see what Select can actually do with it. It is very difficult to actually do any sort of harass, which is pretty much forced whenever you go bio. You need to actually harass your opponents in order to gain more time so you can defend against any particular like siege tank pushes.
It always feels very weird late game bio versus Mech, unless you can have a really sick air transition like what Polt was doing. Polt yesterday in GSO was doing a lot of bio play into straight up air, like just not even trying to use tanks or anything to buy him time. And it's kind of like a cool way to transition, but the way Polt was playing required crazy micro and game sense. And I feel like on Ohana, you don't get that same luxury. It's a very small, tight map where if you give up a little bit of position, all of a sudden they're on your side of the map. The distance between the towers are very narrow as well. So if you lose one tower, it's very easy to lose a second tower, and I feel like it kind of snowballs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what's so powerful about Ohana going something like Mech. Mech, you like to be, hitting with this huge fist. And that fist likes to go in one area at a time. So you go over to the Xel'Naga Tower, as you were saying. Once you capture the second Xel'Naga Tower, you basically have a huge advantage because you can hit the 3rd, you can elevator up into the main base, and you can hit the natural. So there's so many different ways, or I'm actually doing the opposite way. Oh, no, that's right. But there's so many ways to actually do a lot of damage to your opponent. Unless Select has, 200 against maybe 120 supply, you really can't cover all of those areas. If it's equal supply, you can't cover 3 different areas against Mech. So that forces you to engage against the Mech, and of course, you have a bad time when that happens.
But this is a great time for Select to push out. Siege mode is only about halfway done for Cloud, and he doesn't have all the things he invested into it, upgrades. He only has 16 Hellions, a tank, and a couple Marines. Oh, this is actually a fantastic time for Select to strike, especially since he had just finished Concussive and Stim. Select also has the option to drop, but Cloud's doing a very good job at putting up turrets. There's almost no reason not to, especially if you go for a very quick 3rd command center. You do have those excess minerals. Drop those turrets. The trick Gretorp taught me. Sorry? It's a little tip that you gave me, right? If you go for a quicker command center, just drop those turrets and make sure you're really safe.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, because, of course, you get those extra mules. It helps out with just getting those turrets. Now, I love what Cloud is doing, not actually pressuring in. He wants to make sure he gets a couple more tanks. Now Select is going to be pushing in here. Finds a really big hole, actually. And look at this. Cloud is actually doing... Select is doing so much damage with this Bioforce.
Yeah, Cloud tried to protect this 3rd a little bit too closely and left his natural wide open, and this is actually incredible amounts of damage. The Raven's already been dealt with, so the point defense drone wasn't really that useful. The Viking also trying to see if he can work on the medevac, but there's really no use for the Vikings other than that. Cloud immediately trying to stabilize, but he might even lose his command center, especially if he's not able to protect it. He doesn't really have any units to really protect his ramp. Only 1 tank and a couple of Hellions, and this is a good amount of damage from Select that he needed to do. This is exactly what Select needed to do, and he also has a mini contain with 3 tanks.
Oh, wow. And now pushing into the third base, trying to actually confront this one siege tank. He will be able to take it down. Select going to lose just a single siege tank, but of course opening up this whole third base. Cloud is in a ton of trouble at this point, and I feel like he hit the only timing that really existed. I didn't even know this timing existed.
No,
to
this
be
is
completely
it's
honest.
exactly it. Because most of the times you can see tank players squeeze out the first few tanks, and you feel like you can't push as bio, especially up a small ramp like Ohana.
Especially when you get the very quick Raven, but there it is. GG gets called out from Cloud.
Select.
So I actually want to talk about that a little bit because that was really, really interesting. You know, a lot of times when you are going bio, you see that early Raven, you're like, whoa, I have to be very careful because my Marauders are a lot less effective in this position. Critically, what happened, though, was I feel like the Hellion should have been out on the field to really deter Select from pushing out. What he wants to actually force is some sort of run-by. And he wants verification that that push is coming a little bit earlier so he can start that siege tank production a little bit faster, really emphasize that siege tank production. He wasn't able to do that, and when the army is already at your front door, the reaction is very, very awkward. You can't react in a great way. And ultimately what Select got was a gorgeous position. He was able to take out so many siege tanks, so many SCVs,
spot,
and from there it's like Cloud is just segmented from his main and his third base. His production really is stagnated because everything gets picked off. Really well played by Select.
Select had the higher win rate and now moves up to 1-0, 2-0, the best start you can possibly ask for in NASL Season 4. Thank you to Azo, the people who provide monitors for NASL Season 4, as well as all other stuff you do for esports. When we come back, our next series of the day, also some cool segments and lots of cool things planned. We're just getting Division number 2 started, so don't go too far. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.